Chapter 221, The Arrival of Myths. Neo arrived at the gates. He noticed a tense aura between Cain and Apollo. "You can't get inside unless you register your traits," Cain said. "Are you guys crazy? Revealing the traits is as same as revealing our weakness. We won't." The group became silent when they saw Neo. Cain and Alexander bowed, showing formal respect to him as the ruler of the city. Apollo, on the other hand, had wide eyes. "Why you?" His lips quivered as if he had seen a ghost. "Neo Hargraves." "Yes, I'm Neo Hargraves," Neo answered and thought. Did he find my name from Wanderers? And why is he so shocked? Apollo snapped his neck towards the two women behind him. "He exists. I told you he was real." The waist-long black-haired woman chewed the bubblegum as she nodded. Her pale white skin, crimson lips, and platform boots were quite striking. The corner of her lips rose as she scanned Neo with her gaze. The other woman, much younger, perhaps only 20, maintained a passive expression. She stared at Neo with an uninterested gaze, but he could see the look of interest hidden deep within her eyes. "This is interesting," the black-haired woman said. She ruffled Apollo's hair before he could speak and stepped forward. "I'm Emma Carter, an S-ranked awakener. These two are Charles Edward and Apollo." The golden-haired boy cut off Emma and spoke. "My name is Apollo. If you say so." Emma shrugged. "He is Apollo, and she is Athena. We are here on behalf of the Awakener Association. We heard the news about the anomaly number 33's defeat. The association wanted to help the city recover from the damage and sent us here." Cain and Alexander had grave expressions. They had known the myths were coming. But meeting them in the flesh was entirely different. The myths were only standing, and yet they were radiating a powerful aura that threatened to swallow the two whole. Driven by instincts, Cain was about to grab his sword when he and Alexander were suddenly enveloped by Neo's aura. The aura was comforting and helped them relax. "Thank you for coming here. Please come inside," Neo said. "You are not going to ask us about our traits?" Emma asked with a smirk. "It's fine. I know your traits already." Her smile disappeared instantly. Even Athena, who had been disinterested, became alert. They stared at Neo with sharp gazes. Surprisingly, it was Apollo who broke the tension in the air. "We'll complete the procedure. Of course, we can't reveal our complete traits for obvious reasons. But we will disclose some of our abilities." As he spoke, he heard Athena's voice inside his head. "Why are you doing this? He said he knows our traits. There is no point in hiding them. He could be bluffing. Doesn't matter. I need to recruit Neo Hargraves no matter what. If I need to reveal my abilities to show my goodwill, I will gladly do so." Before the two bickered, Emma interjected. "Apollo is correct. This guy is dangerous. It's best if we have a cordial relationship with him until we can find the full extent of his abilities." "You are worried. He is that strong." Apollo spoke in his mind, surprised. "He has a very high mastery in darkness." "How high?" Emma became silent for a few seconds before adding. "Forget it. We should stop talking in our mind, or they will get suspicious." Apollo gave a slight nod before he turned to Neo. Just then, Neo opened his mouth. "You can take your time. I have no problem waiting for a few minutes." "You knew we were talking with telepath?" Apollo asked. It was obvious. Apollo held a strange expression. Alexander passed them a form for registration. They filled it and entered the city. "Whoa. This place is quite good." Emma whistled. "But doesn't look like they are happy to receive us." The citizens were staring at them with frowning expressions and cold eyes. "This way." Neo led them to his office. He sat on the sofa with Apollo, Emma and Athena sitting on the opposite side. Cain and Alexander stood behind Neo. "So, what's the real reason the association approached us?" Neo questioned as he drank the tea being served by Callista. Callista's movements were slow and deliberate. She activated her trait to know if Apollo was speaking the truth. "To help the city and congratulate you. It's not every day a myth is born. The association is always trying to maintain a friendly relationship with them." "Is that so?" Neo placed the teacup down and turned to Callista. Apollo and the others followed his gaze and saw Callista shaking her head. It was a lie. Apollo's face hardened. "Lie detection. Lie detection." Neo nodded with a faint smirk. Emma, on the side, couldn't hold back her chuckle, seeing the troubled expression on Apollo's face. While he was a myth, He was a child too. He looked cute with a bitter smile. Only Emma had the leisure to laugh in the present setting. Apollo ignored her and clicked his tongue, leaning forward. We had to make sure the myth who defeated anomaly number 33 wouldn't become a problem for the Awakener Association. Explore more stories at m.novelfire.net. We were scouting a potential threat. It's the truth, Callista revealed. Neo was a bit surprised. You answered pretty easily. I thought you would try to hide your objective a bit more. We don't have the leisure for that. Neo Hargraves. I want to recruit you to the Awakener Association. Consider the words I have spoken earlier as a showcase of my goodwill. Cain, Alexander, and Callista were shocked. Being invited to the Awakener Association by Apollo, one of the strongest myths, at that, was a big benchmark of one's career success in today's time. If it was anyone else in Neo's shoes, they would have been jumping in joy. Why do you want to recruit me? Apollo chewed his words, carefully organizing his thoughts. His expression was far more serious than what one would expect from a child like him. I received a prophecy about you. I see. Neo's calm words were a bit surprising. He seemed neither shocked nor curious. Apollo hadn't expected this reaction. I suppose you won't tell me about the prophecy unless I agree to join the association. You are correct. Apollo emptied his cup and prepared to retreat for the day. You can take your time before you give an answer. It is a difficult decision to leave the comfort of your city and join us. We won't hold it against you if you refuse the offer. Before Apollo could stand, Neo spoke. I'll join you. Apollo froze, taking a few seconds to understand Neo's words. What? Are you an idiot? Think carefully before making an important decision like this. The Awakeners of our association have a 60% mortality rate. You'll be sent on dangerous missions regularly. How can you agree to throw your life so carelessly? You minus. So I should not join the association. Is that what you are saying? Apollo opened his mouth and closed it, unable to form words. In the end, he clicked his tongue, irritated, and left after leaving a few words. We will leave in 3 days. Pack your luggage, say goodbye, and complete whatever you have to in this city before then. Chapter 222, Coffee Date. He slammed the door shut behind him. Emma began to laugh. Sorry, it's just. He would have been angry if I laughed in front of him. She wiped her tears and stood up. Don't worry about Apollo. He just cares about everyone a bit too much. After Emma and Athena left, Neo leaned back into the sofa and stared at the ceiling. Do you guys have anything to say to me? Callista, Cain, and Alexander remained silent. Anyone in their place would have rebuked him, been angry at him for leaving them behind when he got a chance to go to a better stage. Neo wouldn't have blamed them if they called him opportunistic. Instead, Callista spoke in a whisper, almost as if she was begging him. Are you really leaving us? Yes. Can't you stay here even after you join the association? No. She bit her lips and lowered her head. The past few months had helped Neo become close to everyone in the city, especially Cain, Callista, Alexander, and Edmund. They were like a family. Well, you will come back to meet us though, right? A bitter truth or a sweet lie? Neo thought. Though, the answer was obvious. I doubt I'll have time to come back. Alexander clenched his fist, and so did Cain. Neo was about to console them when Callista wiped her eyes with her sleeve and looked at him with a big, bright smile. Then, we'll hold a celebration to celebrate your successful joining of the Awakener Association. Our budget is tight enough as it is. We can't spend the resources on a celebration for a single person. We'll manage, Alexander spoke. I'm sure the citizens will be happy to contribute. Neo tried to dissuade them and failed. He clicked his tongue and left the office. Just as he stepped outside, he found Emma waiting for him. You have free time right now. Yes. Let's have a coffee. Just come with me. Think of it as a date. You don't get a chance with a beautiful girl like me every day. Neo wanted to roll his eyes. He sighed and agreed. On the way, Neo saw Apollo helping an old woman cross the street. He can't sit empty-handed. You'll keep seeing him moving around the city and helping people. Get used to it, Emma said. They entered the Brewhaven Cafe. The place exuded warmth, with rustic wooden furniture, soft lighting, and aromatic coffee. Again, Neo noticed another myth at the far corner seat. Athena was furiously typing on her laptop. Her lazy, disinterested look was nowhere to be seen. Emma smiled when she followed Neo's gaze and saw Athena. Seems like she finally got an idea for her new novel. She is an author. Yeah. Terrible occupation, I tell you. Making a living as an author was hard as it is before the apocalypse, and now it's worse. I doubt she writes for money, though. Neo and Emma sat near the window and ordered coffee. The orders arrived, and Emma took a sip. Now this reminds me of something interesting. Want to know about it? She asked as she shifted in her seat. I'm all ears, Neo answered casually. Never in 100 years could he have guessed Emma's next words. Athena is a child of Mana. Turns out majority of, novels she has written were told to her by the world. It hurt her pride, and she decided to keep writing until she can publish a book that is written by herself and only herself. Neo froze. He had to take a few seconds to digest the information. Emma giggled when she saw his eyes. So even you can get surprised. Why did you tell me sensitive information like this? I told you. I wanted to see you surprised. I was curious if you had lost your emotions since your mastery in darkness seemed quite high. The light in Emma's eyes disappeared. For a moment, Neo could see her true self. Her smile, her gestures, they were carefully calculated. Her true self held no emotions. Neo blinked, and the strange feeling disappeared. The Emma before his eyes became normal, not a sociopath who lacked emotions. Aren't you worried about leaking such sensitive information to me? No, she leaned closer and whispered. I'll eat you up. If you even think of betraying us. Sorry, but I have no interest in you. Is that so? She smiled and placed the coffee cup down. Thanks for satiating my curiosity. I'll see you later. Neo stared at her figure as she left the cafe. She dropped quite a bomb just to get a reaction out of me. I guess it was a big shock for her to see a darkness user of my level retain normal emotions. He leaned back into the fluffy seat. So Athena is a child of Mana. There were not just one or two children of Mana. Athena was one, the Sphinx was another. There were a few more Neo could remember. Unfortunately, he didn't know how many of them were present in the current era. Continue your journey with MVL Novelfire.net. Since Athena was safe and sound, the child of Mana Neo had to rescue was different. Neo looked at Athena, who was busy typing, and wondered if he should approach her. Just then, she raised her head and stared at him, frowning, before returning her focus to the screen. Seems like she doesn't want to be disturbed. Neo decided to train to pass the time. He sat on the top of the city walls and closed his eyes. My goal is currently 4 things when I consider my combat ability. Learning the Tremor rank spell, Black Dawn of Despair. Learning sword techniques from Cain. Completing my concept of death. Ranking up. Creating a concept could be done passively. His main focus at the moment was sword techniques. Neo opened his eyes. He sensed Cain appearing beside him. Should we start training? Yes. Cain nodded. The two moved away from the city. They stood far apart. Cain closed his eyes to calm himself. It wouldn't do either of them good if he was distracted. When he reopened his eyes, they were tranquil. You will be leaving in 3 days. That's right. It's not enough time to learn my techniques. You can teach me the basics and give me the sword technique manual you've written. I'll learn from them. Seriously. Cain was exasperated. How do you know about that? I didn't tell anyone I was writing a manual. What can I say? I'm something of a mind reader myself. Cain chuckled at Neo's poor attempt at humor. He shook his head with a bitter smile. Still, learning from me and learning from the manual I've written is completely different. I can't guarantee the manual will help you a lot. Receiving direct lessons from me is 100 times better. You are awfully confident for a guy who didn't know he was using incantations until yesterday. I'm not confident at all. That's why I'm worried the manual I've written will be inadequate to teach you. Cain bit his lips and clenched the sword tightly. Can't you just stay with us? Is it that important to leave? You have everything here. Not everything. Neo smiled and didn't elaborate. Let's start the training. He unsheathed his sword and pointed at Cain. Cain let out a melancholic smile and dashed towards Neo. Chapter 223, Flow of Battle. The two clashed dozens of times in a split second. Neo held back, making sure his physical ability was at Cain's level. Cain slashed towards his neck. Find your next read on MVLEnovelfire.net. Neo raised the sword to block when Cain suddenly twisted the trajectory of his attack. His blade shot upward at a sharp angle before taking another sharp turn, descending towards Neo's head. The attacks were abrupt, yet they flowed like water. There was a harmony in Kane's attack that Neo had never seen before. Neo didn't dodge. Kane's attack was a bluff. The tip of the sword missed his nose by an inch. Kane jumped back to create a gap between them. "Why are you stopping?" Neo questioned. "This is the first thing I need to teach you," Kane said. "Why didn't you dodge my last attack?" "Because I could tell the attack was a feint." "How? Did you do it by instinct?" "No," Neo answered. "I calculated the trajectory of the sword and the force behind the attack. Since the attack wouldn't land, there was no need to dodge it." Kane wanted to sigh. "You know what you are doing. But you can't see what is wrong with that. Do you understand you said something absurd just now? You calculated the path of the sword. We were exchanging 11 attacks per second. You were thinking at that speed and countering me at the same time. What's wrong with that?" Kane didn't know whether he should laugh or cry. "I can't do anything like you did. I bet there is barely anyone who could do that. When I'm in a battle, my body moves on its own. I fight while being guided by my instincts." "Are you boasting right now?" "No. I'm saying I don't waste time on thinking. You, on the other hand, use your precious time to predict your opponent's attacks. You need to stop thinking and just attack. It would increase the speed of your attacks by large margins. How am I supposed to fight if I don't predict the opponent's move? Let your body fight. Move as your instincts tell you to move." Neo gave Kane an amused stare. "What you said was the same as telling a homeless man to buy a house. If I had instincts like that, I would have been using them. You are misunderstanding me." Kane shook his head. "It's not a matter of talent. What I'm telling you is to follow the flow. I can tell you are fighting without following the path of your flow." "Blow. What is that?" "You don't know flow." Kane blinked, confused. "No, I don't even know what that is." Kane covered his face and doubled over. "Aha. Ha, crazy bastard. I knew you were a monster, but this is beyond my imagination. Ha, fuck, how is this even possible? English, please." Sorry. It was quite shocking, so I lost control of my emotions." Kane looked at Neo with a smirk. "When you are immersed in battle, you'll see faint lines connecting you and the enemy. It's the flow of battle. Alexander told me the name, and it's the shortest path of attack." "It sounds too good to be true." "You are correct. Alexander and the almost every top combatants of our city can use flow. That's why I thought you could use it too." Kane scratched his head. "Blow is a bit similar to precognitive abilities. You'll be able to predict the attacks of your opponents with it. So, how do I use flow?" You sit. "I don't know how I use it either. Even the others said they could use it instinctively." Kane found it a bit absurd that Neo was fighting without flow up until now. How much combat experience does he have to predict the opponent's attacks without using flow? Kane thought. Neo was a monster. The difference between using the flow and not using the flow was the same as automatic gear cars and manual gear cars. The battles at Neo and Kane's level happened at high speed. Every split second could become the difference between life and death. It was mind-boggling to think Neo fought while calculating every move of his opponent. "Let's focus on the sword techniques for now," Kane said. Neo nodded. Both of them began exchanging attacks. Every few minutes, they would stop, and Kane would explain to Neo what he had been doing wrong. Hours passed. "This doesn't seem like it is going to work," Neo thought as he sat on the ground to rest. Kane was on the side, exhausted. "You suck at using incantations," Kane muttered. "I have a low harmony with pure divine energy." Neo shrugged. While the two were resting, Emma appeared. She walked towards them and stopped before Neo. "Watched enough?" Neo questioned. "I could tell you have been looking at us for hours." "Yeah. It was quite irritating." Emma looked down on Neo with a slight frown. "Stand up. It is irritating to see someone as talented as you wasting their potential. Get up. I'll show you how proper incantations work. I didn't know you liked teaching. I don't. The only student I took gave me a headache, and I promised myself I wouldn't take another student. But you." The darkness surrounded her. "You are wasting your talents. It's frustrating." "You taught someone before?" Neo questioned. He could tell he was getting on her nerves since he had yet to get up despite her constant urging. "I did. He is named Dios. You wouldn't know him." Oh, I do. Everyone knows Zeus. You know Zeus's original name. Seems like it, yeah. Who are you? You even knew what a child of Mana is. I am Neo Hargraves. Neo stood up and patted his clothes. He turned to Cain. You can go back. I'll return later after taking care of monsters. Got it. Cain wanted to say he would fight the statue monster that would soon arrive. But talking back in front of an outsider like Emma would hurt Neo's image. After Cain left, Neo opened his mouth. So what did you mean by talent? That's the first time someone said I'm talented. Emma's brows creased. First time. You are a myth. How can someone say you are untalented? Well, you know. There are all sorts of monstrous geniuses out there. That's true too. Even I was surprised when the kid I taught surpassed me. Congrats, I guess. Emma walked back, creating some distance between them. You are weird. Why? You've been talking so casually with me. What's wrong with that? I'm a myth, one of the strongest ones even among them. And, I'm a user of darkness. People hate darkness users since we are evil. Yeah. Because we are evil. Quite an extreme way of categorizing darkness users, no. Neo spoke as he unsheathed his sword. I wouldn't say it's wrong. Every darkness user I've met was deranged and bloodthirsty. You are calling yourself deranged too. I never said I'm normal. I doubt you are either. That's quite rude. Emma chuckled. The darkness and death surrounded her after a short chant. 6 giant black hands appeared behind her. They floated close to her back. Am I wrong though? The stronger a death or darkness user is, the worse their personality. Niles was a megalomaniac. Even the new necromancer who appeared in Spain is going berserk right now. Neo reacted to her words. Necromancer. Chapter 224, News about Jack. Is that Jack? If that's true, that means Jack lost control over darkness and... Emma noticed his inner turmoil. You know that necromancer in Spain? She asked. Neo remained silent before he spoke. When did that necromancer appear? 6 months ago. Neo closed his eyes. The timing matches with when I arrived in this world. It's Jack. He clenched his fists. Buck. The necromancer is alive, for now at least. Emma's voice snapped him out of his thoughts. What is happening right now in Spain? Neo asked. I told you. The necromancer is going berserk there. I've sent my clone to stop the situation from worsening. But my clone is being overpowered. The necromancer is growing stronger at an alarming pace. After we leave the city with you, we are going to Spain to take care of the necromancer. You will kill him. Him. Emma noticed the nuance behind Neo's words. You know the necromancer. I do. That's unfortunate. We will subdue the necromancer. If we can take him alive, we will do that. Though he will be punished for the crimes he has committed. Neo didn't need to ask what crimes she was talking about. I wouldn't recommend going rogue, Emma suddenly spoke. I don't know your trait. But going by physical stats, you are B rank at best. You'll die a needless death if you try to protect your friend. Neo remained silent. Emma frowned and spoke. Anyway, let's focus on training for now. You are still going to teach me? Aren't you worried about me going rogue? Why would I be worried? Emma smirked. I'm teaching you incantations only. Even Zeus hasn't surpassed me in incantations. Neo became silent again. He didn't want to talk. Not now, after he received the news about Jack. Aren't you going to ask why I'm confident in my incantation skills? Emma initiated the talk. Find more to read at MVL. She was trying to lighten the mood. Neo shook his head. Not really. His tone was monotonous, and his gaze remained unfocused. Neo Hargraves. A powerful aura erupted from Emma. I'm using my precious time to help you train. If you have no intention of paying attention, say so. I don't want to waste my time either. Neo pursed his lips. I'll focus on training. He pushed the brooding thoughts to the back of his head and looked Emma in the eye. What are you going to teach me? True incantations. True. Incantations. Yes, the incantations you are using are based on the harmony pathway. They were created for normal awakeners. But true incantations work on the willpower pathway. Pathway. Yes, pathways. I use that word since it sounds fancy. Neo nodded with a weirded out expression. Maybe it was because the anime industry had hit its peak before the apocalypse. The names of techniques of awakeners were often grand and not related to techniques at all. Then again, Neo himself had been an anime fan and avid gamer. He had no right to point fingers at others. "Get ready," Emma spoke. She dashed at him. The hands behind her back moved as if they had thoughts of their own and attacked Neo. He dodged skillfully. "O darkness, entwine and consume, let all be cast into eternal gloom. O darkness, echoes of the abyss, obey, rend their spirit, lead them astray." She chanted multiple incantations in quick succession. Two giant black hands attacked Neo from opposite sides. He blocked them, but they phased through his guard and swept past his body. His vision dimmed, and a pounding headache assaulted him. "O darkness, bind their essence, let them fall." Wisps of darkness rose from the ground. They bound Neo's limbs and melted into his body. Neo's movement slowed, and he felt his vitality being sucked away. He jumped back. "Those are quite strong incantations." Emma stared at him with a frown. How can he see and move? The incantations should have incapacitated him. Does he have a trait that increases his defenses? The two continued to clash for dozens of minutes. Neither of them went all out. A few minutes later, Emma stopped attacking and spoke. "Did you notice something different about my incantations?" "Yes." Neo nodded. "You weren't asking the elementals to help you. That's surprising. I thought it would take you longer to notice that." "You have good senses," Emma said. "You are right. The harmony pathway involves asking the elementals to help us. Most awakeners use this pathway. The advantage of the harmony pathway is that anyone can use it as long as they are able to chant proper incantations. But in exchange, the strength of their incantations is limited by their harmony with the elemental," she explained. "And the willpower pathway is different?" Neo asked. "Yes. Instead of asking elementals to help me, I order them to follow my words." "What?" Neo frowned. "You order them, and they listen to you. It's not easy, of course. You need to have very strong willpower to impose your will, intent, forcefully on the elementals." Neo understood her words after thinking about them a bit. Harmony pathway equals you use intent to order elementals. If you have sufficient harmony with the elementals, they will listen to you. Willpower pathway equals you use a strong intent to order elementals. If you use a powerful intent, the elementals will have no choice but to listen to you. Won't the elementals rebel if we make them follow our orders forcefully? They would. That's why you would need to appease them at regular intervals. Appease them? How? I don't know. You will need to ask the elementals themselves. Neo frowned. The willpower pathway was perfect for him since he had exceptionally high willpower. However, appeasing elementals sounds troublesome. "Is this why you said I am talented?" he asked. "Yes, you have a high willpower. It's quite easy to notice since you have a good grasp on the darkness element. You would have gone crazy without a high willpower," she said and thought. Just like how every darkness user does. Emma cancelled her incantations and removed the debuffs on Neo. "Train in true incantations. It suits you. I wouldn't say I like to force others to work for me." "I doubt that," Emma smirked. "Someone who calls himself the divine ruler can't possibly not like giving orders to others." Chapter 225, Anomaly number 55, Timeless Sun. What's wrong with being called divine ruler? It sounds like a name a narcissistic tyrant would give himself. Neo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had used the title to find Jack. And he was being mistaken as narcissistic because of it. Emma was about to return to the city when she sensed monsters approaching them. "It's anomaly number 79, Neo muttered. He left to take care of the monsters. Emma was frozen stiff. She doubted her ears. Anomaly number 79. A few minutes later, Neo was fighting monsters when Apollo rushed out of the city. He looked like a star flying in the night sky, his body wrapped in golden light. Before Apollo could join Neo, a giant wall of darkness erupted from Emma and stopped Apollo. Apollo frowned. "What are you doing?" He landed next to her. "Why did you stop me?" Neo Hargraves is fighting anomaly number 79. Apollo's eyes constricted to the size of needles. "Are you sure he has been marked by anomaly number 79? He said it himself, and you should be able to sense him fighting multiple similar-looking monsters." Apollo nodded with furrowed brows. The two of them waited for Neo to return. He came back after a few dozen minutes. His clothes covered in dust and blood. He noticed the heavy atmosphere around Apollo and Emma. Was that anomaly number 79? Apollo asked, hoping Neo would say otherwise. Yes. Apollo closed his eyes, covering his face with both hands, and sighed. Damn it. What's wrong? Neo asked as he used water created by the water element to clean his body of blood and dust. Before that, are you the only one who has been marked by anomaly number 79? No, Neo said. There is one more. Who? Cain. The old man who carries the katana. Apollo became silent. When Neo thought he wouldn't speak, Emma opened her mouth. Cain will have to come with us. Since both of you have been marked by anomaly number 79, you need to come to the Awakener Association's headquarters. Or else you both will be killed by the anomaly number 79. The way both of you are acting. Neo pursed his lips. Has someone been killed by anomaly number 79? Emma nodded. The reason our association doesn't patrol the north of Africa much is due to anomaly number 79. It is one of the oldest anomalies, she explained. The risk rating of anomaly number 79 is still unmeasurable. Experience new stories on MVL. If you see its face, the anomaly number 79 will kill you. There is no defeating it or running from it. We've tried everything for the past 50 years, but we've always failed. The only way out is prevention. Do not look at anomaly number 79's face. Her tone became somber as she added. Benjamin, true name Uranus, the first and the strongest S-ranker, went on an expedition with other high-ranking members of the association. The expedition's goal was to eliminate anomaly number 79. Do you know what happened to the expedition? She asked. Her tone and expression answered plenty. Neo's lips parted. They were defeated. Annihilated. Our association lost its leader, Uranus, and 30% of its high-ranking members. I could tell anomaly number 79 was trouble, but this is far worse than I predicted, Neo thought. Is there no way to defeat anomaly number 79? He asked. No, Apollo suddenly spoke up. We can only avoid being marked. The association has recently found a few ways to save the ones who have been marked, but those methods are less than ideal. I'm sure no one would want to use them unless it's their last choice. Apollo's gaze was listless. The methods Apollo talked about came at the sacrifice of the expedition. Uranus and others gave up their lives to make sure the association could get away to save anyone else who was marked by anomaly number 79 after them. I see. Neo nodded. Let's return to the city for now. We can talk about anomaly number 79 later. Are you crazy? Did you understand what I told you? You are going to die. I heard you already. Apollo stared at Neo, confused. He couldn't understand why Neo was nonchalant. The trio returned to the city. On the way, Emma walked next to him and spoke in a whisper. How long has it been since you were marked by anomaly number 79? Over 7 months. She stared at him in the eye before turning her head towards the city walls. You don't have much time left. For the first 8 months, anomaly number 79's number grows by 1 and its strength grows by 1% every day. She continued. After 8 months, its numbers and strength will grow exponentially. There is no data for the 9th month. Neo asked. No one survived the 9th month. We couldn't get proper statistics. All we know is that anomaly number 79's strength will see explosive changes in the 9th month. Neo nodded, listening to her. Yeah, I'm fucked, he thought. After entering the city, he explained everything to Cain. Cain was worried, but he was more happy he could follow Neo to the association. A huge feast took place in Ars for the next 3 days. Apollo and Emma were surprised to see how much the city loved Neo. The group, Neo, Cain, Emma, Apollo, and Athena, left the city after the celebration ended and they said their farewells. They traveled towards Morocco. Their plan was to move directly to Morocco's edge and cross the strait connecting the Atlantic Ocean and Mediterranean Sea. The journey was far more difficult than Neo had imagined. Despite the party consisting of 4 myths and 1 pseudo-myth, they had to change their path multiple times to avoid facing powerful monsters. Fighting monsters was dangerous as they risked attracting more of them if the battles became too eye-catching or loud. Even their party would become helpless if they had to fight dozens of A-rank monsters. It was night when they stepped into Morocco. Neo blinked and suddenly it was day. Neo and Cain became alert. The sudden appearance of the sun and disappearance of the moon was alarming. You can relax. It's anomaly number 55, Sunshine, Apollo spoke up and pointed at the sun in the sky. It's a timeless sun. All the areas infected by anomaly number 55 will always have the sun shining above them. How does that work? Kane was surprised. We took one step into the border of Morocco and it was suddenly daylight. Is the area infected by anomaly number 55 spatially separated? Yes and no. The area is spatially separated but there is no barrier between the spaces. Kane nodded and stared at the sun. It burned fiercely, casting a powerful radiance on the earth below. How much area has been infected by anomaly number 55? Kane questioned. Quite a bit. Apollo answered. The exact measurements are hidden by the association. This sounds like. Association is friends with anomaly number 55. We have a contract with it. It helps us and we help it. You have a contract with a monster. Don't shout, Apollo said. Despite his tone being nonchalant, there was a sense of smugness behind it. Anomaly number 55 is a spirit, not a monster. Before you ask why it is called anomaly, it's because any entity we, or other awakeners, aren't capable of defeating are titled as anomalies. Chapter 226, Tsundere. Apollo added. Timeless Sun is a spirit, but we didn't know it at first. It was named anomaly number 55 and its name remained even after we formed a contract. Kane was amazed and horrified. He struggled to fathom the strength of association that was able to form a contract with a living sun. And the strongest awakener of that association was defeated by anomaly number 79, which is currently targeting Neo and me, he thought bitterly, his mood taking a turn for the worse. Although it was unnerving to be looked down upon by a living sun, especially because they could feel its gaze, Kane and Neo became used to the presence of anomaly number 55 after a few days. They moved towards Gibraltar Strait at a swift pace. According to Emma, the situation was worsening in Spain. If they didn't hurry, the necromancer would invade Portugal. They reached Fnidec in 3 weeks. We are only a day away from Gibraltar Strait. After that, we just need to cross the sea and we will reach Spain, Emma said as she sat beside Neo. Wouldn't we need to enter deeper into Spain to meet him? Neo said. He did not want to call Jack a necromancer because the title was given to him as a stigma. Only a few days more and I can meet Jack, he thought. I was the one who brought him to this world and I wasn't there for him when he lost control to the darkness. The air of melancholy around him was clear to Emma. Don't do anything you will regret when we reach Spain, she said. I won't. Neo had already made up his choice on whether he would help Apollo and Emma defeat Jack or not. He was gazing at the night sky. They had left the area of anomaly number 55 a few days ago, when Emma stood up and patted the dust off her clothes. The anomaly number 79 will be arriving in a few minutes. Today is the first day of the 9th month. The anomaly will be completely different from the one you've been facing until now. Be careful. She left after giving him the advice. She is really a sociopath, he thought as he watched her fading back. He could understand they didn't help him fight anomaly number 79 because it was dangerous. But leaving him without feeling any guilt showed him how she was. Apollo might be annoying, but he is better than her at least. Neo looked at the flare in his hands. He told me to use it if anomaly number 79 was too much for me to handle alone. Neo had no intention of asking for Apollo's help. Still, Apollo's action brought a smile to Neo's face. He could tell Apollo was treating him nicely as Neo was a kind hero in his eyes. Apollo is like a tsundere. While Neo was examining the flare, a high-speed projectile entered his range of senses. A split second later, the projectile was in front of his face already. The statue monster pulled back its blade and slashed towards Neo's back. It's fast. As if the monster had been baiting Neo, its speed suddenly became a dozen times faster, catching Neo by surprise. He flew back, smashing through the buildings and crashed into an abandoned hotel. Cough. Cough. Neo grabbed his sides. He felt a wet sensation, and his hand was covered in blood. It breached my ocean's embrace spell easily. Just as Neo completed his thoughts, the statue monster broke through the walls and attacked. Neo sidestepped to dodge the attack. The monster predicted his move and changed the trajectory of the blade. Again, the speed of anomaly number 79's attack suddenly became faster, catching Neo by surprise. Shit. This fucker is purposefully using slow attacks first to throw me off rhythm. Neo pulled Obidus out of the sheath to block the monster. Thunderous shockwaves erupted, shattering the glass panels of the hotel, and webbed cracks formed on the ground. Neo was about to use his aura blade when dozens of statue monsters broke through the walls and ambushed him. All of them were as strong as the statue monster Neo was currently fighting. This is bad. Will he be able to handle it? Apollo asked. They were at a safe distance from Neo's battle. Yeah. For today at least, Emma said. We've made sure the town was empty, so he has to fight against only anomaly number 79. It should be manageable, barely, with the strength he has revealed, she lied with a straight face. According to her estimate, if Neo was only as strong as he showed, he would be defeated today. Emma had no intention of helping him. She knew about the flare Apollo had given to Neo secretly, and she planned to stop Apollo if he decided to help Neo. Bind adventures on MVL. He might try to help the necromancer. I need to use all chances to find out how strong he is. You think he has been hiding his strength? Apollo asked, snapping Emma out of her thoughts. I'm not sure. But he is too normal for someone who took down an anomaly, Emma said. There is nothing noteworthy about him except his mastery of darkness. I hope he is okay, Apollo said. Despite being out of visible range, he could sense Neo's position. Neo was having a hard time. Just then, a groan sounded behind Apollo. He turned around and looked at Kane, who was unconscious but writhing on the ground. I still think Neo should have done it like Kane. He wouldn't have to worry about injuries from anomaly number 79 if he fought it in dreams, Apollo said. They can die in dreams too, Emma interjected. Still, he would have been able to fight without restraints since injuries in dreams don't carry over to real life. Anomaly number 79 would chase its target everywhere. Even in dreams. At Apollo's suggestion, Kane was made to fall asleep with sleeping pills to fight the monsters in dreams. Apollo and Emma shifted their focus to Neo's battle. Neo used a chant and summoned giant bone hands from the ground. The giant bone hands decayed anything, even statue monsters, when they touched it. Still, it was nothing against the overwhelming numbers of statue monsters. Neo jumped and ran on the wall of the skyscraper to escape the encirclement. The hundreds of statue monsters fused into each other and formed a giant hand. They attacked Neo and smashed him into the ground. It feels like shit. Neo muttered, lying in the bottom of a deep crater. His body creaked when he tried to move, and he bled from multiple injuries. I'm going to be defeated if I keep fighting like this. He stared at the countless stars in the night sky as he sensed the ocean of statue monsters rushing in to drown him. Instead of standing back, Neo put his hand into his pocket. Oh, come out. It's time you do some work. The caterpillar in his jacket resisted his pull and refused to leave the comfort of his pocket. Q-O. Q. 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 It refused, protesting because Neo only fed it shadow elementals for the past 8 months. Q. Q-O. Neo was exasperated. Does this look like a time to make demands to you? Chapter 227, Devouring Their Time. Q-O-O-O. Fine, Neo clicked his tongue with annoyance. I'll give you 1 vial of pure divine energy elixir later. Happy. As soon as he said that, the caterpillar rolled out of his pocket. It had grown plump after doing nothing but eating for months. The statue monsters jumped inside the crater to attack Neo. Devour their time. Q-O. The caterpillar opened its mouth and started to suck all time elementals present in the surroundings. A beat later, the statue monsters froze, having lost their time. Neo stood up before they could move. He jumped out of the crater and looked at the statue monsters. They got themselves trapped in quite a nice place. The caterpillar suddenly gagged, having consumed mimic time elementals of the shadow world, and time started to move again. The statue monsters turned around and noticed Neo standing outside of the crater. Neo crouched and touched the ground. The Eternal is not gaining any progress from sustaining physical attacks. I don't want to waste my time fighting you guys anymore. Necrotic touch. The divine energy in his core churned. The ground beneath his fingers began to decay, and the decay quickly spread. The tremor ranked spell. Necrotic touch. Reached adept mastery a few days ago. It allowed Neo to use Link a qualitative upgrade to the spell. Now, he could decay any one object that was indirectly in contact with him. He, however, wasn't using the link at the moment. Fall, and be buried along with this town. The ground began to sink. Neo carefully controlled the radius of necrotic touch to not harm the ground around him. He decayed the town's earth. The plot of land cracked and started to sink. Having reached adept mastery rank in the spell's range and power had drastically increased. He used a large amount of divine energy and sank the town, burying the anomalies along with it. Ugh, I feel like shit. Neo stood up with a wince. His core was drained. The tremor-ranked spell at Adept Mastery was a major strain on his divine energy reserves. Q. Yes, I will give you the elixirs in a moment. Let me get to them. Having defeated the anomalies for today, Neo went toward Apollo and the others. He found them staring at him with stunned expressions. Why you? Apollo stuttered, unable to form words. Neo didn't understand what he was trying to say. While waiting for Apollo to talk, he picked the backpack lying next to the sleeping Cain and took out 2 divine energy elixirs. He placed one inside his pocket and cocked open the other, drinking its contents to refresh himself. The caterpillar bit away the top of the vial and jumped into it. Neo could hear it enjoying its swim inside the elixir vial. QOO. Neo. Apollo called out to him. Yes. You can stop time. He asked, worried and expectant. Why are they so shocked? Ah. Neo realized a forgotten detail. Time control abilities are pretty rare at this time. Barely any information is available about controlling time users, so everyone thinks time users are overpowered. Neo wondered if this was how a modern man felt when the caveman was surprised at the sight of fire. I can't stop time, Neo answered. I can devour it. It's similar, somewhat, but only similar. Okay. Their conversation was cut short due to Cain's groan. He sat up, blood leaking from his nostrils. Apollo rushed to Cain's side and checked his pulse. How are you feeling right now? What happened with your battle with anomaly number 79? Barely survived, Cain answered grimly. His eyes swam around, searching for Neo. Please, Neo, be safe. He let out a sigh of relief when he noticed Neo a bit far from him, perfectly fine and dandy. Apollo gave a short emergency treatment to Cain and left the matters to Athena. She used an incantation to summon a giant water bubble fused with holy elemental energy. It purified Cain and lightened his mental stress caused by the battle inside his dreams. Stay updated with MVL. Although Cain was physically fine, his spirit had suffered a great deal of damage due to anomaly number 79's invasion. He needed a few days rest before he could fight again. He won't survive tomorrow's attack, Emma said. Nix. Emma. Fine, Emma, Apollo spoke through clenched teeth. There is no need to say he will die tomorrow. That's the truth, though. We haven't reached Spain yet, let alone return to the association headquarters. How is he going to hold out until then if he was almost defeated on the first day? He can survive if. If what? Are you going to help him? Apollo's mouth clamped shut. He couldn't think of a retort. Cain sat on the side with his head lowered. Until yesterday, anomaly number 79 didn't look dangerous to him. Today, though. I will die tomorrow. I can't win against anomaly number 79, he thought. He raised his head and stared at the shining stars. There was no despair in Cain's eyes. It's fine if I die. I've lived long enough. But. Cain shifted his gaze and stared at Neo, finding him looking back at him. I need to repay Neo at least. He has given me so much. Dying with a debt. I don't want to go out like this. His thoughts churned. The technique still needs a few weeks to complete. But if I only focus on the main points, I should be able to finish it today. As for the minor details, Neo will have to figure them out himself. Cain had been creating a new technique for Neo for the past weeks. Unlike the other 7 techniques of his, he didn't create this on a whim. Of course, his 7 sword techniques were powerful even though he took only a few moments to create them. Creating a technique suited to Neo was challenging. Cain would have loved more time, but it didn't seem possible. I'll take care of it. Neo's voice cut through Cain's despondent thoughts. There is no need to make Cain sleep from tomorrow. I'll fight the anomalies alone that come to kill us. Cain blinked. It took him a few seconds to understand the meaning of Neo's words. Before Cain could complain and convince Neo otherwise, Neo spoke. I'm not doing this to help you. My skill, trait, grants me resistance against all types of damage. To train the trait, I need to get hit by different kinds of forces. I'm going to fight anomaly number 79 alone to level up my trait. It's not to help you. I'm doing this for myself, Neo spoke again as if to assert his words. Cain lowered his head, hiding his face behind his sleeves. He wiped the tears and looked at Neo while trying his best to give a teasing grin. Sure, if you say so. Neo made an annoyed look. He didn't hate being thanked, but something about Kane's expression ticked him off. He left before Apollo joined Kane's parade. After Neo left, Apollo patted Kane's back. Don't worry. He will manage. Chapter 228, A Plan to Defeat Jack. Weren't you saying he would find it difficult to win today's battle? Why are you suddenly saying he can fight the anomaly on my behalf? Read latest stories on AIM. Well, because I misjudged his strength. Severely. Let me tell you what happened while you were fighting the anomaly number 79. Vila Real de Santo Antonio, Portugal, Memory Shadow World. Not yet. Emma's clone tried to maintain the barrier, but it turned out to be futile. The sea of bones swallowed the clone and shattered the barrier. The clone, moments away from being crushed under the weight of the bone sea, self-destructed. A brilliant surge of crimson light erupted beneath the grotesque sea of bones. The creaking silence was shattered with a deafening roar. Shockwaves rippled outwards. Bones rattled and shifted, some melting while others turned to dust. Nevertheless, only a small portion of the bone sea was destroyed. The endless sea moved and filled the gap created by the explosion. Cities away, a towering mass of bones and flesh stood motionless. The towering mass looked like the silhouette of a grim reaper beneath the dark clouds. It suddenly moved, digesting the memories of Emma's clone. Stronger. Enemies. Food. Coming. The voice echoing in the air was a mix of jarring cacophony, sounding like the mix of thousands of voices. The towering mass moved. It raised its foot and stepped towards the Strait of Gibraltar where the Atlantic Ocean and Mediterranean Sea met. Portugal had a lot of food. But something much better was coming its way. SAR, Morocco, Memory Shadow World. Emma whistled. Guys, I have news. Bad news and good news. The group turned towards her. Neo was drinking the divine energy elixir after defeating the anomaly number 79. Today was the 5th day in the 9th month, and the anomaly had gotten multiple times stronger. Apollo was away, scouting the city. Athena was writing on her laptop while Kane was meditating, running hundreds of simulations to create the perfect sword technique for Neo. He opened his eyes and turned to Emma. Apollo, come back, Emma said into her device. The pale gold-haired awakener returned. What happened? He asked. My clone was defeated. Isn't this earlier than you predicted? Apollo asked with a terrifying calm. It should have taken a few more days. The necromancer's growth rate was too explosive. Even Emma was surprised. The necromancer was devouring everything on its path. It was wonder how he hadn't self-destructed. Though, becoming a monster, which the necromancer had become, was certainly worse. Apollo bit his lips when he heard her. If he didn't become a monster, we could have gained a powerful ally, he thought with clenched fists. The good news is, we don't need to cross the Atlantic and enter Portugal anymore. The necromancer is coming towards us. If we wait 2 days, he will reach the strait. Emma looked each of them in the eye before adding. We can set up an ambush and take him out in one full sweep. Yeah. Apollo's thoughts churned. He had been thinking of a method to defeat the necromancer for weeks. Isn't defeating a necromancer impossible? Kane interjected. They can store their souls within phylacteries and revive themselves endlessly. Since the necromancer is covering the entire Spain, there is no way we can find out every phylactery he had prepared and hidden. There is a limit to how much one can divide their soul, Emma answered. There are exceptions to this rule. But I doubt the necromancer is one of the exceptions. She added. 5 phylacteries. 7 at best. That's the limit. She is right, Apollo said and thought. The only exception to the soul-splitting rule is Emma. It is her trait's ability. The necromancer shouldn't be able to do anything similar. He reassured himself. Nevertheless, a nagging feeling remained in his heart. What if the necromancer had a similar trait to Emma? No, that's impossible. Why am I having these thoughts? For a moment, Apollo wondered if these were warnings coming from his trait about the future. No, that's impossible. Every trait is unique. He forcefully ignored the thoughts and focused on the issue at hand. So, what's the plan? Emma asked. I can fight, but I doubt you want me to. That's right. You are our last choice. Kane frowned, unable to understand Apollo's choice of words. Apollo noticed his confusion. Emma and the necromancer are both dark element users. If they clash, their residual energies will corrupt the land. Spain will become barren for years, decades, if the necromancer is strong enough to force Emma to use her full strength. He took a breath and continued. I'll summon sunshine. Sunshine's holy light will weaken the necromancer and the monsters greatly. What after that? Emma questioned. Don't tell me you are planning to attack with sunshine. We aren't here to pulverize the place. I'll weaken the necromancer as much as possible and hold him down with sunshine. It will buy enough time for Athena. She can prepare her strongest attack and defeat the necromancer with one shot, Apollo explained. What about the phylactery? Sunshine can use Holy Wave to take care of it. Not a bad plan. It's simple and direct. Emma held her chin, deep in thought. Apollo turned to the group. The plan is good. However, the fact remains that if I summon sunshine above Spain, the place will be permanently affected by the spirit. Isn't that a good thing? Cain asked. If the spirit can radiate holy light passively, it will purify the dark energies that have corrupted Spain. Not everyone will think the same. People wouldn't like to live underneath a living sun. It's like having a nuclear warhead dangling above you at all times. Yeah, I would also be worried if I had to live in those conditions. Cain nodded. That's normal. After explaining his plan, Apollo drew the battle strategy on the ground with a stick. Aren't we and Neo going to help? You won't participate in this battle. This is the job of the association. We can't ask for your help. Besides, you two are already busy with anomaly number 79. Cain nodded with a downcast expression. He had been doing nothing. Even the technique was yet to be completed since he wanted to create something that would become Neo's trump card. Let's do a vote. Should we fight with sunshine or not? Apollo said. I'm in, Emma pitched. No, Athena said and didn't elaborate any further. Apollo didn't ask why she said so. If she wanted to explain, she would have done it already. It was no use hounding Athena for an answer. What about you two? He stared at Neo and Cain. Cain turned to Neo, his face saying he would choose whatever Neo said. I have a different proposal. I see. Apollo wasn't surprised. Neo had been silent since the start. It was clear he had a different plan. Let me take care of the necromancer. Alone. Yes. Reject it. Why? You aren't strong enough. Apollo looked at Neo with a firm gaze. It was clear he wasn't going to take no for an answer. Emma's gaze became cold. Is he planning to help the necromancer? She thought. She tightened her fist, making the bones pop. Neo, I've warned you already. I will kill you if you make the wrong choice. Chapter 229, Apollo and Athena vs Jack. Her gaze made Neo's skin prickle. Bind more chapters on AIM. It's a good thing I've been acting friendly with him. If he is going to help the necromancer, he would expect us to stop him, but his guard against me will be the lowest. He wouldn't expect me to attack him. Her thoughts were cut off when Neo opened his mouth. Fine, how about we do this? You can use sunshine. If you aren't able to defeat the necromancer with the first attack, you will let me fight him instead of Emma. Apollo thought about his words. Okay, Apollo said and thought, it shouldn't matter since Athena can take care of the necromancer with one attack. Are you sure about this? Emma spoke, making it clear she was against the decision. Yes. Emma shook her head inwardly. Apollo was being lenient on Neo, probably because Neo looked like a hero to him. The group hammered out the minor details of the plan for the next 2 days. Apollo and Athena mainly meditated to make sure they were in perfect condition for the battle. Nyx patrolled the place and took care of surrounding monsters. She cleared the area to make sure they weren't surrounded by monsters when they started fighting the necromancer. Neo trained with the 7 sword techniques of Cain. Time passed like a blur. The necromancer is here, Apollo muttered. They could sense a dark presence approaching through the sea. The sky darkened, and the sea boiled. A towering mass of darkness and bones appeared on the horizon. It walked through the sea. The necromancer's steps sent waves of dark energy pulsating through the surroundings. Soon, it appeared fully, revealing its giant size, and the sea of bones moving around it became visible. Mist rose from the sea, and it began to turn black. Apollo and the others could feel the powerful pressure of the necromancer. When the necromancer laid its eyes on them, it raised its hand and pointed its finger at them. Ha 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 ha. The sea of bones churned, making sickening noises of cries, laughter, and shouts. It will be fine. Emma ruffled Apollo's hair. Only then did he realize he was trembling from fear. That history won't repeat itself again. Yes. Apollo took a deep breath to calm himself. He forcefully suppressed the surging memories of their battles with Niles Radcliffe. The necromancer is in range. I'll start. Apollo clasped his hands and rotated his palms in opposite directions. He chanted multiple incantations. Athena, on the side, summoned a shield and a spear. She hit the beach with the butt of the spear. An ethereal glow covered the land. The radius of the glow increased, and dozens of transparent dome-shaped shields appeared around the group. The sea of bones clashed with the shields. Athena's brows creased. A drop of sweat flowed down her nape as she struggled to hold back the bone sea. How much more time do you need, Apollo? She asked through her clenched jaw. Instead of answering, Apollo continued to chant. A golden fire burned in his palms, and his eyes glowed. The necromancer felt the rising presence of holy and light elementals in the surroundings. But it was too close to the food to run away. It decided to push forward before Apollo could complete the incantations. As at Sastista, the necromancer roared. 3 giant magic circles appeared behind the towering mass of darkness and bones. Bone spears came out of the magic circles and shot forward. Athena's eyes widened. Ow. That's not incantations. The spears tore through her shields before she could complete her sentence and nearly hit her if not for Kane's intervention. 5th stance, Seijutsu. Kane slashed and diverted the bone spear. It landed a bit far from them, and the ground exploded. Corrupting darkness sprang forth. Unfortunately, Kane couldn't move again and protect Athena. His hand had nearly broken from the previous clash, and he was afflicted with a stun debuff. Just as the darkness was about to touch Athena, Apollo completed his chant. O great spirit of mine. The noise of cracking glass echoed. Instantly, the darkness next to Athena was vaporized. The group gulped, their throats parched. The temperature rose, making their lips dry and cracked. The sea started to sizzle due to the intense heat. Urara Hagega. The towering mass of darkness and bones roared. It shook as if it was being hurt, and it looked at the sky. There, a small crack had appeared. The crack enlarged. Pieces of the sky fell into the ocean. A blinding light pierced through from the gaps in the cracks. Descend. The sky shattered into a brilliance of light. The gigantic sun descended from the heavens, its radiance overpowering the true sun and forcing it to hide behind it. Afafjafajnajesfn. Magic circles materialized around the necromancer. Spirals of darkness shot upward and attacked the sun. Unfortunately, they sizzled out of existence before they could cover half of the distance. O great spirit of mine. Apollo, in a trance, gave the next command. Purify all that is evil. The necromancer let out a wailing howl as the sea of bones started to burn away. Golden white flames danced in the air, burning even the slightest trace of darkness. The pressure on Athena decreased. She let go of her shield and pulled her spear back. The mana around her flowed into the spear. The air trembled, and the necromancer attacked. Apollo used sunshine to destroy the necromancer's attack. Blood flowed out of his nostrils and eyes due to the immense power of the spirit. Neo, despite not being the target of sunshine, found it hard to breathe. The huge amount of holy and light in the surroundings was burning him. Without death to shield him, he could only use darkness and ocean's embrace. Athena's chants were almost complete when the necromancer suddenly opened its mouth. A giant circle appeared before him. The souls of the dead he had eaten poured around. Their grudges and despair howled, making the group's soul shudder. The necromancer created a shield from the souls. Apollo was forced to weaken the power of sunshine, or he would end up damaging the souls of the unfortunate. He glared at the necromancer and at the despicable method it was using. He felt as if the necromancer was smiling. For all that is holy. Athena completed her chants. A golden white flame danced around her spear. Don't. Apollo shouted when he saw her. You'll harm the souls too. The spear flew out of Athena's hand. It turned into a white streak as it flew through the air. They are already dead, Athena spoke while preparing for more incantations. If you hold back, you will be putting the living at risk for the dead. She chanted more incantations. The speed of the spear increased. It broke through the sonic barriers and shattered the shield of souls protecting the necromancer. The necromancer roared as the attack landed on its body. A beat later, the spear exploded, turning into a giant pillar of light that swallowed its massive body. Apollo. This isn't the time to be sentimental. Apollo's expression worsened when he heard Athena. Against his wishes, he increased the output of sunshine to kill the necromancer. C-230, meeting Jack. The pillar of light fed on the holy light of sunshine and it grew hotter. Its temperature increased to the limit before it exploded, turning the sea into mist and pulverizing everything around it. The shockwaves hit the group on the beach. The mist, along with a slight dribble of rain and small bones, followed. It ended, Apollo spoke, heaving. He sensed the necromancer's presence disappear. Yes, this went better than I expected, Athena said. Her eyes dropped from exhaustion. I'll deal with the phylactery now. Apollo increased his synchronization with sunshine. Cracks appeared on his skin, and his eyes became hazy. His senses merged with sunshine, and he could feel everything the spirit could. He used the spirit to locate the areas with a sudden surge of darkness. Those places would be where the necromancer had placed its phylactery. The surge of darkness and death around the phylactery after a necromancer's or a lich's death was a natural phenomenon. Unfortunately, the surge was minute, and phylacteries would normally be placed far from each other. A normal awakener wouldn't be able to use the window of opportunity to locate the phylactery due to their limited range. Sunshine solved the problem for Apollo. I've found the phylacteries. There are. Why did you go silent? Athena questioned. How many phylacteries are there, and what is their location? The phylacteries are around us. How many? All of them. Every piece of bone around us is a phylactery. Darkness erupted from the small pieces of bones. It jumped into the sky, flowing and merging at the center of the sea. Athena stared at the scene with grim eyes. She had used a large portion of her mana for the last attack. Even if she wanted, she couldn't use another attack at the moment. Apollo forced his tired body to move and raised his hand, pointing his palm towards the giant orb of darkness. O great spirit of mine! Apollo's heart pumped blood furiously through his veins. He could feel it. His heart was about to burst due to the huge amount of stress. His skin and veins ruptured, but he forced himself to continue the chanting. Burn. Stop. Neo placed his hand over Apollo's shoulder. You will kill yourself. I can handle this much. You can't, Neo said, seeing the death covering Apollo, ready to pull him into her embrace. Remember the plan. You failed your first attack. Now, it's my turn. Neo patted Apollo's shoulder once and stepped towards the sea. He used his water affinity to walk over the water. You can't defeat him either. Stop this madness, Neo. Before Apollo could complete his sentence, Emma placed her hand over his head. He turned to her and saw her shaking her head. Don't stop him. It's his choice. But you said he knew the necromancer. He is his friend. Yes, that's why he has to be the one to put this thing to an end. Apollo was trying to protect Neo. He didn't want Neo to stain his hands with his friend's blood. He bit his lips while drowning in regret. Finally, Emma thought as she watched Neo approach the orb of darkness. It would have been dangerous if he remained here. Unknown to Apollo and Athena, Neo had been ready to attack them if the necromancer's life was in danger. Emma was surprised when she sensed his bloodlust. She, however, couldn't attack Neo as she risked disturbing Athena and Apollo while they were fighting the necromancer, and Neo was too close to them. There was a chance Emma wouldn't be able to protect them in time if Neo attacked. I can take him out and the necromancer together from this place. Unknown to Emma, Neo knew what she was thinking. He had purposefully leaked his bloodlust to tie her hands by making her focus on protecting Apollo and Athena. If he hadn't, she would have entered the battle long ago and killed Jack. Neo erased those thoughts from his mind. He stared at the giant orb of darkness which housed pieces of Jack's soul. Hey, Jack. The surrounding darkness attacked Neo, but he used his own darkness to overpower Jack's darkness. The bone sea reappeared and rushed towards Neo. QO. The caterpillar devoured the time of the bones, and they froze. You've grown strong. He unsheathed his sword and kept walking forward. The 3 rings of death he had stored around his heart started to vibrate. They hummed as if singing the lullaby of death. Flickers of red lightning crackled around Obedus. Even the myths are having trouble defeating you. Neo's death mastery had decreased to mid-apprentice level. However, this only affected the death he created now. The rings of death stored in his heart were different. They were created when he was at peak adept mastery. Everyone would be happy when they see how much you've grown. Mars, Felix, Arthur, Sean, Morrigan, Clara, your parents. I bet they would be surprised. The caterpillar couldn't devour more time. The sea of bones started to move again. It rushed towards Neo from all sides. I'm happy to see how strong you've become. So. Neo raised his sword. Darkness and death surrounded his blade. He combined his elements with the only sword technique he could use. 7th stance. Tenrai-san. Stop crying and come out. His sword descended. The front of the orb of darkness, floating in the sky, was split apart. Red lightning crackled around the newly made entrance. No one saw Neo's attack land. Not because it was fast, but because he had manipulated death to kill a portion of the orb of darkness. The orb of darkness quivered. It began to heal itself. Before it closed, Neo jumped and entered it. Wells of souls assailed Neo. They tried to corrupt his mind. Grotesque figures stitched from bone and rotting flesh appeared in Neo's path. Shadowy tendrils lashed at him. Do it. Kyo. The caterpillar, sitting on his shoulder, devoured their time, allowing Neo a smooth passage ahead. At the center, Neo found Jack. His bones and flesh were visible. Half of his face was melted. His limbs were tied by a mass of flesh and he let out feral growls. There is no way I can talk to you like this, Neo muttered. Let's go somewhere more private. He placed his hand over Jack's head and used his second trait. Mind invasion. Neo's gaze became vacant, and he woke up inside Jack's soul space. The dark void was filled with distorted souls. Countless voices entered into Neo's head. Eueris friendy killed us DDD will never forgive you. Neo ignored the voices at novelbanadat. He closed his eyes and spread out his senses to find Jack.